This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty, there we go. Edge, baby. Yeah, 1 o'clock. Let's get the edge.
What an intro, man. I'm honored.
There you go. Oh, you're part of the family now, Marcel. So you get the special intro, you get the special border, you're living on the edge. You know, it's a beautiful thing, man. How you feeling? You feeling good?
Oh, yeah, man. I'm feeling good. You know, it looks like we're past that little cold streak, man. I thought I left Buffalo a few months ago, but it felt like Western New York this weekend. So I'm happy to see the sun, happy to go outside and not need to bundle up anymore. I thought somebody lied to me about these winters, man. Iguanas weren't the only thing falling out of trees, man. I was ready to collapse.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. I was at a concert on Saturday night, an outdoor concert, and I was freezing my ass off, dude. God bless, man. It's crazy stuff. All right, so this Harbaugh story, I haven't, not to pick on the guy in Chicago, but I haven't seen a credible source actually report this. So it's hard for me to believe it. And I know the whole Ross love affair, and we talked with Alan Poupar about that, and I get that. But outside of connect the dots, is there any substance to this story at all, like real substance, or is it just strictly rumor right now, Marcel?
Yeah, I don't like to outlet shame because anybody you never know who knows who in these days, man. Like, who knew who Shams Charania was before he joined the Athletic, before he joined Stadium?
The dude was breaking stories while he's in class.
Exactly. So, like, I don't like to.
You know about that, right? You know about that, right?
The dude was a hooper, man. He was a ball. He is an industry baller, man. Like,
isn't he, bro? He is awesome.
The guy's great. I'm more of a Woj guy, but either way,
that's fine. They're all great, dude. I got no problem. I got respect for all those guys, however they do it. But the fact that the kid was doing it while he's in class, come on, man. Yes, that's
exactly.
That's
So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't like to shame anybody based on who they work for. He does have 8,000 followers. It is my understanding that there is nothing to the Harbaugh rumor. I've got multiple people telling me nothing to it. These are people that I trust. If I'm a Dolphins fan, the NFL is the NFL. What's true Monday might not be true Thursday, but as of Monday, there's nothing to the Harbaugh rumor. There's definitely no way he's telling the team at Michigan today that he takes the Miami Dolphins job. It's not happening.
Marcel, by the way, this is already a major dick move on his part. The fact that he interviewed with Minnesota now, dude, you should have, if you wanted to leave, you should have told Michigan after your game that, hey, listen, I'm thinking of going to the NFL, so Michigan can prepare for life post Harbaugh. If you leave now in the middle of the recruiting season and all of that's incredibly irresponsible on his part. And the fact that Michigan stuck with him throughout all this time, because I know what they did this year, but he has so underachieved there with all the hype and the money and all of that. I find it really irresponsible that you would even think of leaving now. At this point, your dedication should be to those kids. And next year, after your final game is done, whenever it is, then make your declaration. That's what responsible professionals do. Putting Michigan in this position now, I find it to be really unfair, actually. That's just me.
Loyalty only applies to the teenagers playing this sport, right? Not to the grown men getting paid millions of dollars. But it's my understanding that, this is either some random newfound interest in NFL coaching, which I don't believe, or it's a ploy to get more money from Michigan, which I do.
That's what I thought it was. That's what I thought it was. But when he interviewed with Minnesota, I was like, oh, man, now you're really dressing it up. Because if you just want money, by going to interview in Minnesota, you're making it that harder on yourself on the recruiting side. So, you're kind of also hurting yourself, because if you still plan on staying, you're just making it that much harder by interviewing in Minnesota, because parents and guardians are going to go, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to send my kid there. Is he really dedicated to it?
Yeah, it's a odd play. It's a weird play. It's one that I'm sure Jim and his agent have kind of discussed at length. But It's, again, my understanding that that little train is not on its way to South Florida. Like, there might be, I think that he gets his extra couple million. You know, he just cut his salary in Michigan. Like,
Yeah.
I think he and the athletics department came to an agreement that, hey, I haven't been living up to my salary these past several years. I can't beat Ohio State. I can't get out of the Big Ten. And you know, they paid him accordingly. Now that, you know, he's got a few accolades under his belt, then I think he wants that money back.
He can't even beat Michigan State. Okay. So they've had his number too, overall. It's crazy. All right. So now on the flip side, maybe you're thinking like I am on that, which it doesn't really bode well for you, by the way, because I'm not really right in my mind. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So now are you thinking like I am again on this? The reports are they want to keep their defensive staff, right? So they like what they saw from their defensive staff, as you broke the story a couple weeks back that Flo wasn't even talking to his staff from Thanksgiving on. So I'm thinking the front office got a good feel for the staff working on its own in that second half of the season. So word is they want to keep the staff together. So that's why we're hearing the Dables of the world and the Kellen Moores and obviously the Mike McDaniels. It's kind of a human Jenga thing. All right, we bring you in. You don't have to worry about the defense. It's kind of in place. There's continuity and all that. What doesn't have any continuity or chemistry is on offense. That's your field. That's where you get to fix. So in a way, they want the new coach to kind of have to ease in that transition. So they help them along by having that defensive staff in place. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think it is definitely why we're seeing their interest in offensive-minded coaches. They need an innovator. They need somebody creative to come and jumpstart what's really, and I'm writing about it as we speak, a unit that has one building block, depending on what your thoughts on Tua Tagovailoa are. I think Jalen Waddle is the only one who, you know, damn near universally we can say, okay, this guy is, you know, this is something to focus your offense on. This is a piece to focus your offense on. So I think that's why they're looking for somebody who can put, you know, majority of his effort into that side of the ball, keep your rising stars like, you know, Josh Boyer, like Gerald Alexander, like Charles Burks, you know, guys who have worked wonders there in the secondary. Keep them, elevate them, whatever you have to do to make sure that they don't leave South Florida. Do it. You know, however, I am of the mindset that this defense isn't exactly, you know, it's not like plug and play. It's not like you know, I was just watching the U earlier this morning. It's not like that U defense, you know, when Dennis Erickson comes in and they say, leave us alone, don't touch it.
Right.
They still got personnel decisions to make. They still need to fix that linebacker core. They need to figure out what they're going to do with Xavier Howard. The smart move is to pay him his money and keep it pushing. But like there are decisions to make on that side of the ball. It's not exactly, and then they need to figure out what was the difference between weeks 9 through 18 and weeks 1 through 8, and make sure 1 through 8 does not happen again. You know, whatever you did
it won't happen again because Flo won't be talking to them. Flo wasn't talking to them in weeks 9 through 18. So, you know, like as you said, so, you know, you can, by the way, shed some light on that stuff. What more have you learned from all of that he wasn't talking to his staff in the back end of that season? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, from what I'm told, and that kind of took on a life of its own. When I say not talking, and I explained it on ESPN Daily, when I say not talking, I don't mean he's just showing up to work, literally not speaking to people. I think as far as game plans goes, as far as weekly plans and meeting plans goes, he kept that close to the vest. That is my understanding based on multiple sources inside the building. Now, I haven't pushed since then. It seems like a moot point. The man is gone now. Hopefully gets a new job somewhere else. You know, he deserves that. I do think that, you know, he might have got the yank a little too soon, but it's a moot point now that he's gone. I hope that he bounces back somewhere. But yeah, that was just
doesn't look like anybody's got him on the radar anymore, because the Giants were the only team that were really talking Flo, and they chose Dable, and he's not a finalist on any other job, right? Have you heard? Is he a finalist anywhere else?
He's reportedly going to be interviewing in New Orleans. I think that was a pretty fortunate opening for him. I think they got some cool pieces on defense that he'll be able to work with. So I think that's a great fit, especially.
Yeah, but their problem is offense.
The problem is offense. No, they didn't have Jameis. They didn't have a quarterback for most of the year. They
Dude,
still
he
got
did
Alvin
pretty
Kamara.
well with Jameis. He did pretty well with Jameis, dude. It was like 4-1 his touchdowns to interception ratio. Like Sean Payton, like Jameis didn't play bad football with Sean Payton. He played pretty good football with Sean Payton, dude. He was on his way. I would imagine that Jameis is the one that's incredibly disappointed about that, because go look at his numbers. They're not that bad. They actually were pretty good.
The
Nice
most
job.
efficient of his career there. No, like Jameis has a stigma attached to him, obviously, but he was playing good football. It turns out maybe spending a year behind Drew Brees, learning behind Brees and Sean Payton, and then the humbling experience of not getting that figure option picked up by the team that took you number 1 overall and having to kind of sing for your supper in that sense. I think that had a positive impact on Jameis, but that team's got some pieces to it, man. I think that considering how late in the game that coaching position opened up, I think they're fortunate to have a candidate like Brian Flores available. So I like I said, I hope that it works out for him. It's a heck of a gig to land. Usually we're talking about coaches taking over teams. It's not often that they take over teams that are in position to win. You're usually talking about teams that are struggling. I think that's what makes New Orleans opening so enticing. That's what made the Vikings opening so enticing, and that's what makes the Dolphins opening so enticing, is that this is going to be the first time in since the turn of the century that the Dolphins will hire a new coach who inherits a winning roster, who inherits a team with a winning record the previous season. So whoever it is, whether it's Mike McBride, who I think is the leader in the clubhouse right now, or Kellen Moore, or maybe a third candidate that just hasn't been reported yet, I think that they have something to work with more so than their predecessors.
And by the way, it'll be the second time Wanstead inherited a winning roster from Jimmy Johnson.
Well, yeah, since turn of the century. So I guess he was technically hired in 2000.
Yeah. So it was those guys. But for me, where you and I are going to disagree, I think it's going to be another disaster wherever he goes, and it'll be even more magnified there. I think this is all Adam Gase all over again. The best thing that can happen with Flo, this is where you and I are going to disagree, is that he needs to be humbled. Adam Gase was not humbled. Adam Gase got a job right away, and it made him feel like everything he did in Miami was right. And so that's where he ended up being wrong. And I think Flo needs to be humbled. So the next time he goes, he can learn from the mistakes he made. If he gets a job right away, he'll blame everything on Miami, and he'll think he wasn't the problem, and the mess will continue. Belichick got humbled. Others have been humbled in the past. I think Flo needs a little humbling a little bit before he gets that next opportunity. I think it would be the best thing for him. I think it's a guaranteed failure if he goes the next go around right away. That's just me. I just think it's Gase all over again.
Yeah, I don't disagree with the humbling part, but I think being fired after back-to-back winning seasons is humbling enough. That's somebody looking at you and saying, like, I don't care about the results. I just don't want you here. I think that's humbling in its own right. The fact that teams are not beating down his door to hire him, like you said, he lost out on the Giants gig to Brian Daboll, which he might have gotten it if Joe Shane was not hired as the general manager.
Maybe.
Again, it's my understanding that Brian Daboll.
The cynical one in me, being in this business for 32 years now, when they brought in Reggie McKenzie, I knew they weren't hiring Reggie McKenzie. I almost felt like they brought Reggie McKenzie over to go, all right, Reggie, so tell us about Flo. What were the issues with Flo, this and that? And I wonder what Reggie McKenzie said about him, because I would imagine he's not going to trash him. And he probably defended him as much as he could to a certain extent. But that was the cynical one in me. When they brought in Reggie McKenzie, I'm going, oh shit, this is a scouting report on Flo.
I mean, that's what I think it was reported that the Giants called Miami's brass and just basically got hey, what was Flo like in the building? And they gave him glowing reviews. So whoever they called had Flo's back. It's an interesting situation how quickly the landscape works in this league. Like I was saying, it's my understanding Brian Dable wanted the Miami gig badly before Joe Shane was hired in New York. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure what the timeline is inside of this building in Miami Gardens. I'm not sure if they're deliberately taking their time, if they, were wasting their time. I'm not sure if they struggled to get interviews. I don't know what the holdup was here, but it is my understanding that before Joe Shane was hired in New York, that Brian Dable to Miami was, I mean, there was
I
high
know.
interest in both sides,
And
from
they
both
wanted him.
sides.
I know they wanted him badly. I know it that they wanted him, but something there, and I think the Shane thing, I think you're right. I think the Shane thing made him feel comfortable because he would have to inherit the defense here. Here he's going to have a little more power at tweaking everything. And he's already been working with Shane. So that's kind of, there's a comfort zone. And believe it or not, Daniel Jones physically is kind of like the same quarterback they just left.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but I'm just saying that he's a big, athletic guy that can run around and has a decent arm. So there's a lot of similarities that I wonder they feel like, well, a lot of things I was doing in Buffalo, I might be able to do it with this kid. Whether they can or not is another thing, but you kind of start putting the pieces together and it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones is kind of like minimum wage Josh Allen, I guess.
Right.
Like,
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
like,
That's a good one. I like that. I like that.
he's athletic. He's athletic enough to make plays outside of the pocket.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it a lot. He was bad last year, and the Giants supporting cast is not bad, man. Like
No, I know.
the O line is, but they have receivers. They've got a tight end in Evan Ingram who creates matchup issues when he's healthy. They obviously have Saquon Barkley, who, when he's healthy, can be a difference maker.
That's the problem there. I don't know. Will Saquon be Saquon ever again? Is the question, man. That's the scary
and even
part,
without
man.
him, I think it was Devontae Booker.
Yeah,
comes in and plays. I don't think there's much of a difference, much of a drop off in play between Barkley and Booker. There are pieces over there. I think that Dable is what makes him a good coach at this stage of his career is his ability to extract the most out of his players. He forges, really tight knit relationships with his guys, and because of that, guys want to play for Brian Dable. And I think that he's going to get the most out of. We're going to see what the ceiling is for that Giants team because Dable will get the most out of them. And if they're not good, I think Shane and Dable say, all right, well, we tried as currently constructed for a year. Let's go ahead and put our real footprint in it.
It's our Edge energy drink, Miami Dolphins Insider Report. Here's where you get the edge on your Miami Dolphins. And by the way, you can follow Marcel on Twitter at Marcel_LJ. Marcel, when we hear Tom Brady obviously is going to retire now, and I was talking about this earlier, if there's something that you got to do right now in this offseason, and you were talking about X, and I think X will be dealt only a couple reasons. One, the knee eventually will give out. There's too many scopes there, so you've got to be careful there. And two, I don't think you can sign all the people you need and keep everybody. And with those two corners. Plus, you've got to play Iggy at one point or another and find out whether you made the right pick or not. And I think this is the year where they trade X and they bring in Iggy and maybe a veteran to back up Iggy as an insurance policy or something along those lines. But long story short, you've got to retool this whole thing. If Tom Brady's leaving, there's 800 free agents ready for Tampa. You got to go get Ryan Jensen. That would be one of my top targets right away. I want to solidify the middle of that line and make sure that that quarterback doesn't have a crumbling pocket every single time. So my center and my guards have to be Studley. I'd go after Jensen right away. Your thoughts on that?
And see, this is where I think the head coach is going to make a massive difference because when you look at a guy like who I said I think is a leader in the clubhouse and Mike McDaniel, when you watch the way that San Francisco's offense works, the way he creatively gets his linemen in space to block for playmakers, the things that he does, I mean, it's blown up on the internet, but putting Trent Williams in motion, like that's terrifying. But
yeah,
it's brilliant. You don't see teams doing that. And I think that's the kind of innovation where you don't necessarily need to have top of the line offensive linemen. You don't need market-setting offensive lineman. I think that he's the kind of guy who can look for specifics and kind of moneyball it and get guys that are going to work within his system. So I think it really depends on who the coach is. But I think prior to number one, you sign Emmanuel Ogbah.
I agree with you, except for that position. Center, you can't moneyball that one. You have to have a great center. Every great quarterback usually has one nasty center in front of him running the show and taking care of everything. That's why I say that I would go a little bit overboard to make sure Tua has a nasty guy in front of him that's a stud. That's just me.
Yeah. I mean, spend the money at center. Spend the money on Emmanuel Ogbah. Spotrac's got him at 3 years, $30 million market value. Obviously, that's not going to cost that much. It's going to be more. But with you got $70 million to play with, go ahead and play with it. I agree that you can't be paying X and Byron Jones what you're paying,
everybody else.
They're paying them,
and everybody else.
There's a reason that you don't see that in the NFL. You don't see $30 million going to your cornerback position. I think it's unsustainable. One of them has to go. I would say one of them's got to go. You're going to get more for X, but he's also the better player. So it's going to be up to the new coach to decide what he wants to base his defense around. And then this is something that I think we need to start talking more about this offseason, and I'm going to start writing it. Bring in a quarterback who can challenge Tua Tagovailoa for the starting job. Don't bring in a backup. Don't bring back Jacoby Brissett. With all due respect to Jacoby.
Oh, God, no, please.
Good guy.
No.
There's a drop-off when he bring in a guy who can push.
But wait a minute. Hold on. But here's the problem with that right now, Marcel. If you want to sign everybody and you want to add a quarterback to competition, that's too much. It's too much because if you want a legit quarterback for competition, then you're going to pay a lot of money. I think at this point, you either got to develop the kid and commit to him and give him what I would give him. Somebody brought this up, and I thought it was an excellent idea. I'd give him a Teddy Bridgewater because Teddy, mentally is ahead of like most quarterbacks. The only problem with Teddy was that the good Lord did not give him enough ability to exercise his brain so he could go out and be a Hall of Famer. But Teddy would be exceptional as his backup because I think cerebrally, if I said that right, he can mentally, communicate with this kid, help him read defenses, do the things that Tua needs next to him as a backup court, like Don Strock did for Dan Marino at times. Be his eyes and ears, be that leader for him on the sidelines. I would get a guy like that instead. This year, I would focus on developing him and make him feel comfortable. All you've done for 2 years is make him feel uncomfortable the entire time. I think you've got to turn the page for 1 year where you focus on him and building the offense and finding out whether the kid can do it or not. That's all for me.
And, I'm glad that you mentioned Teddy because you know what? Teddy can push you for a starting job. Teddy might not keep it for the whole year. Teddy can push for a starting job. Tyrod Taylor can push for a starting job. The Jimmy Garoppolo.
I love Tyrod is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, but his accuracy will burn him every time and twice on Sundays. Love him, but he's not accurate enough ever to be a starting quarterback. That's my problem with Tyrod. But go ahead.
The thing is, he's not like think of a random backup quarterback here, man. Like he's not like a Case Keenum. Yeah, he's not like a bad example, but he's not like a career backup. He is a guy who is capable of coming in and starting games. Mitch Trubisky, see what that reclamation project in Buffalo is like, man. Like there's not a lot of teams that are ready for a bridge quarterback right now. So I don't know what Trubisky's options are going to be, but I get making Tua comfortable. I understand that. But the league is not comfortable, man. You ask any coach out there, they're going to say there are no guaranteed starting jobs. Unless you're Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, there's no guarantees, man. I think Tua needs that fire under his butt here. I think that you could see there's no threat from Jacoby Brissett. It's do or die. I'm a believer in immersion, man, and trial by fire.
Do you think that guy really needs fire? Really? I don't see that in Tua. I think he's the ultimate pro. I think that guy plays the hardest he can. What I think he needs is actual support is what he hasn't had. That's why I would get a Teddy, because a Teddy would help him on the mental side to develop the game, because Teddy obviously knows defenses better than Tua does at this level. I would love to see Teddy pass on, his experience and intelligence to a kid like this at this point in his career. That's, to me, see, the work ethic stuff. Nobody that has a hip injury like him in November is ready for September. He doesn't lack work ethic. He doesn't lack character. He doesn't lack fire. I think he has all of those things. I think he's one of those guys that doesn't need that kind of stuff to be that. I think he is that already as it is. You don't agree with that?
I'm not saying that he is not. I'm saying it goes one or two ways. Either one, this guy is good enough that if Tua slips, can take over that job. Or two, if Tua is hurt, which he has been in each of his first 2 seasons, you have a high-level backup who can keep the load going. If they had competent quarterback play during that 7-game losing, or during the 4 games that Tua missed this year, maybe they turn around and win. Maybe they beat the Raiders. Maybe they beat Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But they weren't getting anything out of that position. So I think, at best, you find a guy who can, if Tua is not up to par, if Tua doesn't improve and doesn't inject life into this offense, you've got a guy who can take over. Or two, if Tua is injured, as Tua often is, you have somebody you're not going to see a catastrophic drop like we did this season. It seemed like as soon as Tua left that game, the life was gone from this team until he came back. And it still took a couple weeks to get it back. But it didn't seem like a team that was confident in what its offense could provide without Tua at the helm. So I think you need to improve the backup quarterback position. Can we meet in the middle and say that you got to improve the backup quarterback position?
Oh, yeah, please. Jabroni Brissett is not the guy, bro. No, definitely not. I want a capable backup, a guy that can fill in, but I also want a guy that can bring a lot of experience and help Tua in the development, because I think that's really, really important. Like I said, like a Don Strock, that it was capable of starting and playing if you needed it, but was the exceptional backup because he was kind of like a coach. And that's the way I see Teddy. I think Teddy is just really, man. Teddy's the guy that frustrates me the most, because I wish the Lord would have given him just a little bit more athleticism, and the guy would have been just a monster in the NFL. I really believe that, man. All right, let's wrap it up with this, Marcel. Excellent debut here. Mike McDaniel, when does he get hired? They're not going to hire Kellen Moore, so come on. Mike McDaniel, when does he get hired?
All right. Well, how about I can end our segment with just a little bit of a scoop. It's my understanding that McDaniel is interviewing with the team today. If things go well today, I haven't heard anything on Kellen Moore. Jerry Jones seems to believe that he's going to stay, and I don't think Jerry's coming out and speaking out of his rear end. If he,
I love how Jerry cockblocks everything on that organization. Like, forget about it. Like, it's amazing. It doesn't matter if you're the head coach. It's the owner outside the locker room holding the press conference that matters. It's just amazing. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and I think that we could see Mike McDaniel, given his introductory press conference by the end of the week. I think it's a possibility. I don't want anybody to come away from this saying Marcel said this was going to happen. I think it is a possibility, because that second interview, like I said, to my understanding, is today. So, these things can work fast. They're running out of candidates at this point. I think that just from a rational standpoint, and we're not hearing anything from the team. So ultimately, we're all trusting our sources here, but we're not hearing anything official. But from a reasonable and a rational standpoint, it makes sense if you are dragging your feet through the process that you're waiting on the guy whose team made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. So now that is done, I think that we start seeing that sense of urgency come up. I had a league source who was pretty familiar with the Dolphins interview process tell me there was no rush from the Dolphins. The Dolphins are in no rush last week.
That's what it seems like.
I think that changes this week. I think McBride would be a good hire. You can consider me McDaniel is a good hire. Consider me Team McDaniel. There's a lot of concern whether him and Kellen Moore are ready. Looking at Kellen Moore's resume, he is the epitome of not ready yet. I think Mike McDaniel's still been around the league he spent 15 years in the NFL.
15 years, yeah, he's been around.
He's been around a little bit. Plenty of staffs, and there's a concern about whether or not he calls plays in San Francisco. It is my understanding that he calls plays in San Francisco. It's a split responsibility, but he does have the ability to call plays. He does have that responsibility, and he designs them as well. So I think he does a lot more than than some message boards are suggesting. So I don't think that should be a concern.
To piggyback on your thing, what Shanahan does is it's fourth down, it's third down, some of those critical downs. That's where Shanahan will give his 2 cents, which what you think Andy Reid doesn't give his 2 cents? You think, any offensive minded coach is going to check in a little bit on that moment because it's kind of, so yeah, I'm with you there. There's no doubt about it. And I tweeted this out also over the weekend. The modus operandi of Chris Grier has been to take his time, signing Flo after the playoffs, trade away Tunsil after several offers, exhaust every option until he was forced to trade Minkah Fitzpatrick. No real hurry to pay X-Man. It was Flo that got him paid. It wasn't Chris Grier that was bending over backwards trying to pay him. It was Flo. So why would any of us expect a quick decision on the head coach? Grier has shown you that he is very patient at doing anything that he does. He takes his time at all of it. That's kind of been the MO.
And I mean, I can kind of respect playing, dancing to the beat of your own drum, not being influenced by outside forces, blah, blah, blah. There's a fine line between, lacking a sense of urgency and taking your time. And I think that the Dolphins are more or less straddling that right now. But if Mike McDaniel is their guy and has been all along, they're the only ones interviewing him. So there is no reason to sprint through the process.
I'm with you there. There he is. Debut, baby. Marcel, Jacques. And who knows, maybe a little nugget was dropped there. Follow him on Twitter, Marcel_LJ. And catch him twice a week here doing his thing exclusively with our Edge Energy Drink Insiders Report. Thank you, my brother, for living on the edge and giving us the edge on the Miami Dolphins.
Appreciate you, man. Looking forward to next time already.
You got it, baby. There you go. Marcel, let's do it.
This is the Big O Show.